set foot in Nablus. But his father and family were driven out by the Israelis, by the Zionists, and what they want to do, and what his children want to do, and his grandchildren will want to do, is to return. Because of the injustice that has been perpetrated upon them. Isn't that the basic question? Isn't that the basic issue? And until that injustice is addressed by the Israelis in particular, there's not going to be peace.
I think, I had, as I said, I had to leave my job there because I got too churned up seeing the same things over and over and over. In the last few weeks I was there, I had a little girl who was admitted to one of the hospitals inside of Jerusalem, so she got a pass to get into, but her mother didn't. So she was, 9 years old, but her parents didn't get a pass to get her, but she did. So she got treated, but eventually we got a pass for one of her aunties. I mean, it kind of went on and on and on and on like this. It was just one tale after another, and I realised that, you're right, there's an injustice happening, but there's another injustice, and that's the injustice that we pretend is not an injustice. It's almost like a double injustice in many ways.
Last question. That's a very simple question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Americans are just as much to blame as the Israelis for this situation?
That's a good question.
Absolutely.
That's a very good question. Look, I don't know, blame, but the only way that this will change is if the Americans decide that they want it to change, and they are completely locked down by Israel's influence in their political world, basically.
How do 8 million people control 350 million people?
Well,
how does this happen? This is unreal.
There's lots of people written books about this, and I can tell you that, and that's the simple start and stop of it. So I think in many ways, John Kerry has been humiliated actually in the last. He spent 9 months rushing around trying to bring a peace agreement. Nobody wanted a peace agreement. And then in the media, in the Israeli media, he's been told that he's a fool, and you sort of wonder why would you put up with that? If I was John Kerry, I don't think I could have done that. So yeah, there's not going to be a proper peace agreement unless the US wants to try and do that. And they are not an impartial broker or a neutral broker. They are definitely on one side. And it's a real tear amongst many Americans that I certainly met. You will have private conversations with them. You'll be frustrated as all hell. But the political line is such. As I say, I took many of the senators around the West Bank. They could not believe what they were seeing. They didn't realise what was going on.
One last question, just conscious we've got tea and coffee and afternoon tea to serve, so one over here, last question.
Yes, I've watched quite a lot of David Shearers, and I've been watching BBC in the West, but one of the things that's been put across is that Israel promotes itself as a great democracy in the area and says that Palestine is not, because Hamas is just a terrorist organisation. I wondered if, from living in Israel, how you found the media and what coverage there is. Is there the coverage, will they be getting the same coverage that we're getting here of what's happening in the Gaza Strip? Because I get a sense from what I've read widely on the internet that they don't get the same coverage.
Look, I'll say, in many ways, what you're seeing on TV is a virtue of the fact that Israel is allowing them international media into Gaza. Now, it could have easily shut its doors and we wouldn't have seen anything, virtually anything. So the fact that we're actually watching what's going on is because there is a media that's allowed to be there. So I mean, Israel is a curious place. They might, in a sense, be carrying out these sorts of acts in terms of war, but in terms of their political system, it's almost the same as ours actually. It's got it says a list-based system. They have a very low threshold. So it's 2% threshold, whereas we have a 5% for parties. Don't ever get to 2%, by the way. The tail wags the dog thoroughly. It's very free. It's very open, and there's a lot of debate within Israel. I find more open debate inside of Israel than I do often outside and talking to people about things. Having said that, obviously the media is covering it from the point of view of how most Israelis feel. And 91% or 90% of most Israelis were of support of the war. Not necessarily how it was being carried out, but the fact that there was an action against Gaza. And let's face it, if you're a politician and you got 90% agreement for what you were doing, I mean, that doesn't get any better than that, frankly. So you're not going to get Netanyahu saying, enough, stop. That takes real courage. And I have to say, Ariel Sharon, who's a most unlikely hero in a sense, was able to nobody quite knows what his ultimate goal was, because unfortunately he went into a coma before that happened, but certainly he moved towards dismantling some of the settlements and seeing a long term. And Olmert, who was the Prime Minister in Israel, when he retired, he decided that they were going in the wrong direction. And the four senior members of the Shabak, one of the security movement, they believed that they were going in the wrong direction. So, unfortunately, it doesn't happen when you're in politics. It seems to happen when you're outside of politics. Let that be a reminder for you. And on that political note, maybe I'll end the... Thank you very much for coming along.